All right, unless you've been living in a cave, you know that Southeast Louisiana was absolutely annihilated by a hurricane last week, Hurricane Ida. I've lived here all my life. It's the worst hurricane of my entire life, including Hurricane Katrina. Significantly more powerful than Katrina. Now, obviously, New Orleans did not flood like it did in Katrina, but it was a nasty, nasty storm that did a ton of damage. Not the least of which was to the marsh that I fish and love so much. This is my first trip since Ida, and I gotta tell you, launching was an adventure. The back down ramp was covered with marsh grass. All the water in front of the launch was solid marsh grass. It took quite a bit of effort to get through it, but I soldiered on and made it. I just gotta see what is happening in these marshes in the aftermath of Ida. And many times these tropical events push in a bunch of speckled trout, so that's what I'm checking for first thing this morning. Now, ooh, that was a takedown. I'm not terribly optimistic because this water's super chalked up, as you might imagine. Not only did Ida bring a big storm surge with a ton of wind, she also dumped a year's worth of rain. And so that's got everything really, really messed up. All the rivers are high, tons of dirty water flowing into these marshes. So I gotta admit, I don't like my trout chances, but I just gotta see. Once this sun gets up a little bit, I'll get a better read on how this water looks. But right now in this low light, it doesn't look too good. I'm starting with my favorite search rig for trout, particularly in the fall. This new Versamax knocker cork. Right now I got it about 2 feet above a TKO shrimp. We've got about a 15-knot south wind. It's supposed to be dead slick today. It's supposed to be no wind, so hopefully it dies. But right now it's blowing pretty good. And I have no idea what the tide is doing. I think it's rising, but all the buoys are out. And man, I depend on those buoys so much. It really limits your knowledge when you don't have access to the buoys. Hopefully we'll get them fixed soon. All right, now that the sun's up just a little bit, I can tell our visibility is horrendous. It's maybe 3 inches, so not surprising, but doesn't bode well for our trout expedition. So I'm gonna go see if we can find some better water in the marsh. Not positive that we can, because I know a lot of that grass was stripped out by the storm, also killed by that salt water. So I don't know. I really don't know what we're gonna find today, but we're on the hunt. So let's keep moving on. Woo. Spider. All right, I pulled into this little canal to find a million alligators, like that one, but also a bunch of bait scattering on the surface. So I got this pop bar, see if I can elicit a strike or two. Normally I like fishing this thing around grass. Unfortunately, the grass is nowhere to be found. It's gone. Oh, there's a fish. And of course, it's a gar. That's not what we wanted to start the day with. Well, we'll just let him go nuts, wear himself out so we can get our bait back. These gar are just such nasty creatures, man. Look at that row of teeth. All right, I've made a switch to a green hornet matrix shad on a 1/4 ounce death grip jig head. Since there's no grass in this marsh, I don't have to worry about fishing anything weedless. Believe me, I'd be delighted if I ran across some grass, but I'm thinking it's all gone. And with this, I'm targeting redfish and speckled trout, flounder, and potentially bass. I think the bass were probably wiped out by the saltwater storm surge, but you never know. They're really, really resilient, and they've surprised me in the past many times, so I'm not gonna give up on them. But I would be more surprised if I catch a bass than if I don't catch a bass, I'll say that. The water in this little marsh area looks better than I expected, I'll say that. It's not great, but I expected it to be pretty bad. And it's not atrocious, it's fishable. Seeing lots of bait, that's a good sign. Sun right now is behind a cloud, but it's about to pop out. Looks like it's gonna be out all day. I'm sure it'll be hot. And there is some rain coming at around 10 or 11 a.m., 80% chance. So we don't have terribly long to fish. We gotta find some fish. Now I do have to say, at first glance, this marsh looks pretty good. I thought it would look a lot worse than it does. Where I'm fishing right now had 8 to 10 feet of water above it. And that's not water that's just placid and docile. It is roaring and racing. So it can really mess up this marsh. But fortunately, this marsh is held together pretty well. Good sight to see. There's something annihilating bait in this run out here. Ooh, look at that. Something's attacking some bait in there. Ooh, there he is. Speckled trout! Oh my goodness, what a sight for sore eyes. Look at that. Keeper speckled trout, look at that. That makes my day. Just makes my day. Put him in the live well. So I think I'm gonna keep a few fish. You know, some fish just mean more than others. And look, there's no doubt the trout were gonna be fine. If anything, it'll be pushed into these marshes. So in that sense, it's not a surprise. But after the couple of weeks we've had, that fish means a lot to me. I think I'm the only fool on the water today, so it definitely makes me grateful for my sea tow membership, especially grateful. If anything happens out here, I know I can call them and get a tow in. The peace of mind you get from sea tow is worth the annual dues, which aren't much at all. Definitely the cheapest insurance you can buy. I think our tide's about to change. It is super uninspired right now. Look at that bait. Look at that. I really don't even know what that is. Some weird looking bait. Small. It's a beautiful bend in this bayou. Why would it not hold some trout? Of course, I'd feel better about it if this tide were moving more. And it's really not moving much. Oh, here comes an alligator. Get my cork. Look at that. Let's see if we can get him in close. Here he comes. There he comes. Yeah. Get out of here. Hey, get out of here. Woof. 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 Brr. Idiot. Get out of here. This guy's being unusually aggressive for an alligator that size. They normally don't come that close to the boat because he's a big one. And perhaps you heard in the news, but during the aftermath of Ida, a guy in Slidell was eaten by an alligator. I've lived my whole life with alligators. I'm not afraid of them at all, but it is a little unnerving considering what happened to that guy. I mean, obviously a tragedy. So keep an eye on him. He seems really hungry because they normally don't act like that. Well, he's just sitting right there. You'll have small ones do that, but the big ones typically don't do that. Get out of here, dude. Get out of here. You can see the back of this boat is pretty low. Certainly he could crawl in the back if he wanted to. Hopefully he's more afraid of me than he is licking his lips wanting to eat me. There he goes. He's moving off now. And now he's coming back. This is definitely a very, very hungry gator. There's a fish. Ah, it was a juvenile trout. It was definitely a throwback, but good to get a little bite. Oh, there's a fish. Not a trout, juvenile red. Look how white he is in that dirty, stained water. About a maybe 12-inch fish. Legal limit in Louisiana, of course 16. So he gets to swim again. See you, buddy. Oh, goodness. Wow, did I get smoked? How did I miss that fish? That was definitely a red. It was either a red or a flounder. To hit that hard, I had a terrible hook set. It was really delayed. There's another one. That's a speck. That's a speckled trout. Spot lock right here. I'm not sure. I don't think he's legal. It's about 11 inches. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go, bruh. What hit me before him was not a speckled trout. There's a few, oh, there's some bait right there. Shrimp just skipped. I'm right on top of this area. I'm gonna move on and get a little bit away from this. I'll hit it on the way back, because I am just right on top of it. This is an absolutely beautiful bayou. It's 4 feet or so in these straightaways and drops to 8 feet in these bends. This is the time of year I start finding trout in these deeper bends. So far today though, they've really failed me. So they're not set up in these bends yet. They're gonna be any day though. All right, so it's 9:40 and I've been fishing hard, let me tell you. It's been a tough day. So what have I learned in this post-Ida environment? Well, I think it's gonna be a speckled trout fall and winter. There's just so much bait in this marsh. I've seen just a ton of mullet and pogies, even some shrimp, but the grass is gone. I expected it to be gone and it's gone, and that makes targeting bass and redfish so much more difficult. And I mean, let's face it, I don't see any dead bass, so we may not have had a kill, but just because you don't see them doesn't mean we didn't have a kill. Regardless, without the grass around, the bass are just tough to catch. So you know the trout did fine. Once some more fish filter in to take advantage of this bait, fishing should be really good. Now we may have to deal with this kind of stained, off-colored water for the next couple of seasons until the spring when it grows, that grass grows back. But even this water it's good enough for trout to feed in, and it's not horrible. It's just kind of chalky. Hey, look at this. Literally the first grass I've snagged today, and I've made 1 million casts. There is still some around, and that was nice and green, so it'll grow back if we can avoid any future storms. We've got a couple of months left until the grass just really stops growing. It'll grow through September and October, provided we don't have any, real cold weather. If it's just seasonably cool, the grass will grow well. And I'll be glad to see it, I'll tell you that. All right, I expected it to be a tough day, and it was. I had a few fish to keep me entertained, definitely, but it was a grind, slow action today with some tough conditions. Now, I always like to focus on the positives, and one of those is that I really think it's gonna be a very good fall and winter for speckled trout fishing. The table is set. These marshes are just chock-a-block full of bait. The trout just aren't in yet. After Hurricane Katrina, the fishing was legendarily good, but really nobody could get on the water for at least a month after the storm. I mean, a few people snuck out here and there, but by and large, we didn't start fishing until the end of September. Today is Labor Day, September 6th. So we're jumping the gun on trout action. The bass, I think, are toast. I really think they are. Those of you who sometimes give me hell for keeping a few bass, I release most of the bass I catch, but I do keep a few to eat. This is the reason why. These storms just destroy them, kill them all. So I'd rather take advantage of that resource rather than just letting Mother Nature destroy them. And the redfish fishing in South Louisiana hasn't been the best in 2021, and that's kind of continued today. I didn't run across, well, I caught one red. A throwback. So I think definitely for me, I'm going to be focusing on speckled trout for the next few months. So be sure and subscribe if you want to come along with me. I'm also planning to do some fishing in the state of Florida, because in 2 days from today, my wife and I are actually buying a condo in the Perdido area. All right, well, thanks for coming along with me. I wish the day had been better, but you never know until you go. And I'm positive better days are real close on that horizon.